What is up, Packers fans and Pack-A-Day members? Welcome into our members Q&A. Thank you so much for being here. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. For those of you who are not Pack-A-Day members and viewing this after the fact, make sure to check out those memberships because you could be here live asking questions as well. Definitely worth it. We've got a bunch of other members-only content as well, so make sure to check that out when you have a chance. But appreciate all of you who are here already. I see a lot of great questions in chat already, so let's get into it right away today. Obviously, wish we were talking about a Packers win instead. It is what it is. Lots for Green Bay to learn from this one. And I'm sure you guys, like I said, have a lot of great questions, so we'll get into it. Go Pack. I feel like there wasn't a lot of play action in the last game. Wouldn't that be a go-to for the type of game to slow down the pass rush while playing to Jordan's strengths? The issue was in this game, Go Pack, is that the Browns did not honor Green Bay's play action at all. They didn't believe that Green Bay was going to be able to run the ball, so they didn't really buy it. Right. So they're just covering everyone anyway. And the other thing too, is when you're getting beat up front with immediacy, you don't necessarily want to have your quarterback turn his back to the offensive line all that much. That also is potentially a recipe for disaster. So I'll say this again. I thought Matt LaFleur did as good of a job as he could trying everything under the sun, from play action to screen, to jet sweeps, to running outside, to running inside, to deep down the field, to, even read option with Jordan Love, which we haven't seen a ton of. We saw a wildcat with Savion Williams. Like, we saw everything to try to get that offense going. Like, he tried all these different little things that he could. I don't think, again, when you look at that play sheet, that there's much that he felt comfortable going to, because they couldn't pass block up front and they couldn't run block in the run game. So I thought he did a good job of trying to mix it up as much as he possibly could, trying to find something that maybe there was a weakness within that Cleveland defense. And the truth was, they just really couldn't find much. And then when they needed it at the end, they had obviously the big slot fade that goes for a pass interference. You do get a little play action look with Tucker Kraft out in the flat, which worked really well. So he had a couple things up his sleeve still for when they needed it at the end. Unfortunately, just couldn't make the field goal. But I don't know what else he could have done from a play calling standpoint. He showed just about everything he could have in that game, and most of it, unfortunately, just didn't work because the blocking wasn't good enough up front. So add in the fact that, again, Cleveland wasn't honoring the play action. They didn't care. They just treated it like a pass play no matter what. If it was a run, they would stop it anyway. And you add in all that to the equation, and you just don't end up with a very potent play action attack throughout the course of the game. Happy Tuesday, Andy. I can't be blamed for the Browns' loss due to a sprained ankle. Don't get to add Wash Flacco to the list of Zach Wilson, DeVito, Ritter, etc. Can't add Daniel Jones. Maybe he's good now. I don't know. We'll see what Daniel Jones can do the rest of the year. If he's just got the Cinderella slipper right now, but he's certainly been off to a good start in Indianapolis. That game reminded me of Rodgers' last playoff game. Offense failed to get first downs in last two possessions, and special teams gave up a touchdown instead of Love's pick, leading to one very similar end. Looking forward to my first visit to Jerry World and a total annihilation. Their rookie guard, thank you for not taking Golden, is out 4 to 6 weeks now too. Matt LaFleur loses this, and it's not going to be pretty. I don't see Green Bay losing this game. I think they'll get back to the drawing board on the offensive line a little bit. I think protection will be better. Dallas does not have the defensive front to take advantage even of some of the weaknesses up front. So I don't have a ton of concern in this game. CeeDee Lamb is out for Dallas on offense. This is a bad Cowboys team. This is a very bad Cowboys team. They could easily have lost every game so far. Even the Giants gave them a fight. It's not pretty. Now, granted, I mean, the first game right against Philly, they hung in there. If you don't play your best brand of football, that they can beat you. It's not to say they can't. But this has advantage Green Bay written all over it. And hopefully we don't have to have that conversation of losing this one going into the bye week. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Last game was rough. It'll be good to go home to the friendly confines of AT&T Stadium. It certainly has been a place where Green Bay has had a lot of success. Hopefully that continues this coming weekend. The Browns game was absolutely awful. It also doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. If the Pack learns lessons from it, it will have been worthwhile. If not, then the season is lost to begin with. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one way certainly to look at it. And I think that's the positive spin on it, right? I think the negative pessimistic argument would be, hey, it's not like Matt LaFleur and this team over the last 2 years hasn't had moments like this already. It would have been ideal if they had already learned some of those lessons from 2024 and 2023 so that they didn't have to experience this one in 2025. I don't think the Packers were expecting their offensive line to play that poorly against Cleveland's defense. Obviously, not expecting the catastrophic mistakes from the Packers special teams, specifically the block at the end. But those are the things you have to get cleaned up. It was not a clean operation all throughout the course of the day. And to your point, John, it's going to have to be something that they clean up and learn from, and hopefully ultimately do get the message this time. Because to your point, if they don't learn the lessons, and that's the sort of football they play come playoff time, it's all much ado about nothing anyway. It was borderline criminal the way Jeff Hafley mismanaged the offensive line personnel in this game. Are you kidding me? Not head coach material. Does he have any offensive line coaching experience in his background? Can he come help out, or is there anyone else we can get involved in that? Because right now it's all hands on deck for that offensive line. Seriously, they set Morgan up to fail. I felt for him, expected to see Belton at right tackle after Tom's injury. Maybe they didn't want a rookie against Garrett, but Morgan is young and barely played right tackle. I don't understand that decision. I think Belton definitely would have been the right way to go in that situation. I talked about it ahead of time, and Mike Wall kind of talked about it again yesterday for today's show, is that with Belton, it kind of sets up sort of low-key kind of well for a player like Myles Garrett. Let me start by saying nobody sets up well for a player like Myles Garrett, okay? Like nobody, period, end of story. Even Trent Williams had his struggles against Myles Garrett. But if you're going to be chipping on the outside and helping to the outside, that basically forces Myles Garrett to try to go through Anthony Belton. If you're Anthony Belton, you're not super concerned about anybody like forklifting you and sending you back into the quarterback. If anybody can do it, don't get me wrong, it's Myles Garrett. But you feel like in a straight up phone booth style of fight, I'm 330 pounds. Like, I feel like I can at least have a puncher's chance against anybody if we're just going one-on-one in a phone booth, right? What I worry about is, can he get inside? Do I overset outside and then he comes inside? Or do I stay inside and he goes around me outside? Or do I step outside and then he gets me off balance and kind of forklifts me at that point? Those are the things that I worry about if I'm Anthony Belton, not just against Myles Garrett, but against a lot of different rushers, just because he's not that fine-tuned yet. But if you just have Myles Garrett on a one-way, meaning he can't come around because the running back's going to chip him or the tight end's going to chip him on the outside, so he doesn't have that free release. And Anthony Belton doesn't have to overset to the outside because he has help on the outside, and you can kind of just make it so that he's going to have to come right at you. All right. Now you're forcing Myles Garrett to go through a 330-pounder time after time after time. And trust me, Garrett is going to win some of those, no question. But I like that matchup a whole heck of a lot more for Green Bay. That's just the way that I would have went. And to your point, I think honestly they learned their lesson a little bit with Anthony Belton this year by just keeping him at tackle so far and saying, yeah, we put too much on Jordan Morgan's plate. But at the same time, it hasn't felt like they've learned their lesson with Jordan Morgan. They continue to put him at all these different spots. And I just think you need to figure out a home for him and kind of do a soft reset and say, hey, we're going to slow things down. We're going to focus you on either just maybe left guard or left tackle or whatever it might be. But they've got to figure out something where he can get a better base underneath him and start mastering something, because right now he's not great at pretty much anything. And that becomes a problem when you're going to need him probably to start this coming week, quite frankly, assuming that Aaron Banks and Zack Tom can't go. We'll have to see. They did elevate Brant Banks to the active roster today with one of their open roster spots, but one step at a time, we'll see what the offensive line looks like this week. Hey, most hated Chicagoan beat me to it. Yep. Brant Banks officially on the 53. I mean, hopefully that's not really bad news for Zack Tom or for Aaron Banks, that those two aren't out for a while, but they're probably going to, if Banks and Tom are out this week, which I think is probably the expectation, then in that case, you're already down to probably Kennard being your sixth, unless he ends up starting for Morgan. And then you get to Donovan Jennings and Brant Banks, and it gets very, very thin, very, very fast. So depth on the offensive line already becoming a pretty significant issue for the Packers. Andy, not sure if you were the one or someone mentioned it to you, but I found Bisaccia's presser before the Washington game very striking. It lasted barely 2 minutes, and he just looked disinterested. I saw a couple other people mention that as well. Here's what I will tell you about Rich Bisaccia in that particular situation. Rich Bisaccia understands that he has to go and talk to the media as part of his job description, so to speak. He doesn't care about that aspect of it. He cares about trying to win football games. Say what you will about it and say how he's done doing that, whatever, that those are all fair discussions and points. Just remember, Rich has not genuinely or generally been that type of person in press conferences. And what I will tell you about that week is that's a short week, Thursday night football, right? So when you're Thursday night football and you are on an extremely short week and you're just trying to get as much in as you can, especially when you're a special teams coach and your hair's already on fire because now there's players that aren't playing, and you've got to fill in with different players on special teams, and Bo Melton's not playing, which is a problem, and Zane Anderson's not playing, which is a problem. That's a week where you've got so much on your plate that he is literally trying to get in and out of there as quickly as he can. That's not the normal Rich Bisaccia experience. And so I would say I wouldn't judge him on that. If you want to judge him on the blocks kick in week 3, if you want to judge him on some of the stuff that special teams hasn't been able to accomplish, all right, be my guest. But that to me is a nothing burger, much ado about nothing. And that's just a coach that's trying to get back to coaching as quickly as possible, because meeting with people like me in the press conference room certainly does not help him win any games. Totally understand the criticism of Jordan throwing the pick. It's deserved, but my goodness, the shift on how he's being viewed is something. He's actually having a really good start to the season. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Also, not to mention, like, there's going to be these moments through the course of a 17-game season. It happens. Rodgers had it. Brady had it. Favre had it. All of the greats had it. So to me, this game was catastrophic from an offensive line standpoint. He had a very poor error in a very critical moment. So that sucks. How do I want to say this? You have to have, I said it before, you have to have vision in front of you of where you're throwing the ball. If I'm Jordan, what I probably want to read on that particular play is not the receiver that I'm throwing to. I actually probably want to read the tight end and what's in front of that play, and then go to the receiver. Now that's easier said than done. So I'll walk through it one more time here. It's a triple slant, and you go up to the line of scrimmage, and Jordan's very good at reading defenses. It is one of his strengths. That's a great thing. He can read defenses incredibly well. He gets up to the line and he reads that they are in man-to-man coverage. Okay. And it's a pretty easy read. It's not anything crazy. They are very clearly in man-to-man coverage. That doesn't mean you can assume man-to-man coverage. And he doesn't. All right. He looks at Wick, who he's going to on that play. And you might say, well, you can't stare down. Well, this is a 1-2 out throw. You're not trying to fool a linebacker or a safety or, get somebody off of it. You're reading the player that you're going to throw to. He basically probably made the determination. He thought the matchup that was best was Wicks's matchup, who he won on this play earlier in the game, on a slant earlier in the game, on a key, I think it was a key third down, if I remember correctly. So he gets up to the line, man-to-man coverage, reads man-to-man, post-snap, as he's coming to the line. What he's reading, he's going to look at Wicks right away, and all he's looking for in that situation is Wicks and is the corner staying in man-to-man. If the corner goes in zone, then he's not going to go and drop that play, because now he knows that there's another window and another player may be coming off into zone coverage. So you're going through pre-snap and you're seeing man, 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 man. I think it was 2 safeties. Maybe it was 1 high safety. I forget. And then I think you had 2 like linebackers in the box that were lurking. And then so you have to be aware of could those 2 buzz over and get in that window? And again, pre-snap look, linebackers are more to the right. You're not concerned about a linebacker buzzing over in that window. So you're getting that snap. You're confirming at the snap, yep, it is man-to-man. I can see the guy going with Wicks. Wicks is going to beat him inside. This is not like a 3 to 5 step developing play, right? This is not where I'm going to get to my drop, read the entire defense and make a throw. This is a quick hitter, 1 step, basically get the ball out, throw to Wicks. And when you're doing that, again, you're reading to make sure that your preconceived notion of the play is in fact correct. So read man, get the snap, see that it's man. He's beating his man, rip the throw. We're going to pick up a first down and win this game. If I'm being honest and not trying to sound like a Jordan Love or Green Bay Packers apologist, it's a great play by the defense. I don't actually have a ton of frustration on Jordan Love over that throw and that read. Grant Delpit is in man on Tucker Kraft. He's in man-to-man coverage on Tucker Kraft. Everything that football would generally tell you is that Tucker Kraft's going inside. Grant Delpit is in man coverage on Tucker Kraft. He should continue to go. Delpit, basically knowing that he's got some help inside, understands that this is probably going to be based on the fact that the defense has completely annihilated Packers' offensive line all day long, that this is not going to be some long developing play, that Jordan's probably getting the ball out of his hands really quick. So he's on Tucker Kraft, knowing that he also probably has some recovery speed if need be to get to Tucker Kraft if he is wrong. He backpedals with Kraft, but is keeping his eyes on Jordan, sees that Jordan is looking to his right and that he's getting ready to fire right away, can leave his man, assuming that it's not going to be a pump fake, right? You're not pump faking in that situation. And if you are, good luck. Their line is probably going to kill you. So he leaves his man and he just goes off of his man coverage responsibilities and he goes and jumps her out. I mean, that's a Charles Woodson play. Woodson would do stuff like that. Again, it's not to say that it can't happen in the NFL. It's not to say that you can't entirely have vision, but in a quick throwing concept against a team that has annihilated you up front all game, where you read man-to-man coverage, confirm man-to-man coverage, Wicks beats his man, you go to make the throw. It's a really great play by Grant Delpit in the defense. He took a calculated gamble, meaning Delpit. He was right. He picked it off. I tend to tip my cap a little bit more to Delpit in that situation than say that's an atrocious read/play by Jordan Love. So I'm not sure, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I'm not sure how many quarterbacks get to that situation and recognize, yeah, you know what? Delpit probably falls off of this. I better not throw this pass. I don't know. I mean, maybe Rodgers at this point of his career, maybe there's a couple others. We're talking about precious few that maybe even have that thought go through their mind in that situation. So, and I kind of tend to like lean towards what Jordan did. I probably would have done the exact same thing. Not that I'm an NFL quarterback by any means, but if I read man, see man, I'm assuming man, I get man, I throw a ball and it's picked off by Delpit because he came off of his man-to-man coverage. Defense gets paid too. I chalk that one up a little bit more to that. It's not a bad decision. It's maybe bad vision again on what's in front of you. I don't know. Like I said, I don't have a major issue there. And as far as like how Jordan's playing overall, I'm certainly not judging much on this game because he had no offensive line play. And then I think going up into this game, he was considered one of the best quarterbacks for the first 2 weeks. And I still am right there. He's going to have a massive season. He's playing good football. I have no concerns over Jordan whatsoever coming out of this one. Sorry for the long answer, but that's where I feel right now. 16-1. I don't care. I just want the Super Bowl win. Don't care what the regular season is. They're going to be a playoff team. Whether they get the bye, don't get the bye, whether they're at home, not at home, that stuff matters. I just need to see them go undefeated once the playoffs start. That's the only thing I care about. Was very short with the media and clearly did not want to be there. This is coming off a huge opening when Detroit, something's definitely, no, just again, Thursday Night Football. Coaches have very minimal time to prepare for that game. He was preparing for that game. Complete nothing whatsoever. Nothing to it. Do we make Kennard our swing tackle? It seems like Morgan can only play on the left side of the line. I talked about this with Paul Brettel today. It'll be on tomorrow's afternoon episode. But if it's me, I'm either having Belton go left tackle, right tackle only, and Morgan left guard, right guard only. And then Kennard, I'm putting like that responsibility on him that, hey, you're going to have to learn 4 positions. Same thing with Donovan Jennings. Or I'm going, excuse me, Jordan Morgan, left tackle, left guard, and Anthony Belton, right tackle, right guard. So either keep it at one position or keep it on one side, but I'm definitely dumbing down the responsibilities for Belton and Morgan and making it so that whoever is out dictates who's going in. If it's right tackle, it's Belton. If it's left tackle, it's Belton. If it's left guard, it's Morgan. If it's right guard, it's Morgan. And then you kind of make your decisions from there. So that's how I'm doing it right now if I'm Green Bay, but I'm definitely pulling things back a little bit and trying to make things easier for Belton and Morgan moving forward. Andy, one love, bro. Why isn't our number one pick not balling? Why is our number one pick not balling? Why isn't our number one pick balling? You got a double negative there, Kenny. Just circumstance, unlucky, rookie stuff, and poor offensive line play all rolled into one. Week 1, Detroit, not a ton of opportunity. Didn't seem like Golden was a major part of that game plan. Understandably so. It's his first game. They were rolling kind of without needing to get him too much involved. You had Reed healthy in that game. It kind of made sense, right? So just, get his feet underneath him a little bit more. Game 2, he's involved a lot more, is open all game long. And unfortunately, Jordan just misses him twice, which should have been 130 yards and 2 touchdowns just on those 2 plays. He was open the vast majority of the rest of the day and just was not the initial read on the progression and just kind of unlucky in that situation. And then in week 3, rookie stuff, meaning he probably should have taken that one to the house. If not, it should have at least been more yardage on that play. And then just no offensive line protection up front. Tough to get Golden more involved and just the offense in general more involved when you're putting up 10 points and only have 230 yards on the day in total offense. And quite frankly, Golden was very involved, all things considered, with 4 targets, 4 catches. I forget what the yardage was, but he was as involved, if not more involved, than pretty much anyone in the offense on that day. Plus, got 3 carries and was the punt returner. So that stuff is all coming with time. Your offense, just in totality, needs to play better, a little bit more complementary, and then you're going to start seeing those players take off a little bit more. Oh, Kenny, come on, be better, bud. Jordan run pretty much summed up the game. Hopefully we go to AT&T Stadium with our piss hot. They will. Ralph, thank you for the super chat. Can't believe our medical staff with Tom. I knew that your core is everything, especially moving 300-pound plus linemen, get him healthy. Yeah, disappointing. Really disappointing that, that he went out there and wasn't able to play. I get it from Zack Tom's standpoint that he wanted to do everything he could. I really respect it from Zack Tom's standpoint. You could tell how much it meant to him. And if you're the training staff, and listen, the play, like, let's say that there's no risk of re-injury, right? Which it seems like even though he couldn't make it through, he did not re-injure himself. And the player's telling you, I got this. I'm going to make it through. I'm going to go out there and battle for my team. And your coach hears that. The training staff hears that. They probably are thinking, all right, let's give the guy the chance. If he's thinking he can go out there and play, like, let's give him that opportunity. He's earned the right for that opportunity. He's our highest paid right tackle. He's our best right tackle. Not to mention, we'd love to have him out there. You probably say, all right, let's give him the chance. But it clearly did not work out the way that anyone wanted it to. I'm sure Zach felt bad about trying to go out there and only being able to play one play. It's a sucky situation, but I think the medical staff, Matt, etc., just need to be smarter in that situation to not put him out there, even though he wants to go, and I'm sure is really begging to be able to go out there. Just give him that extra time, let him get healthy, because certainly him going out there for one play and getting hurt or just not being able to play certainly does not help anyone in that situation. Not concerned about Jordan Love, that O-line, however. I actually was concerned about Jenkins at center. Jenkins has been rough so far. It just doesn't look like he's giving max effort, which is really disappointing. So Jenkins needs to play a lot better. The offensive line is definitely concerning. I'll definitely break it down a lot more when I get through all of my grades for the week, but the initial stuff is not certainly trending well for the offensive line and Elton Jenkins in particular. And I'm with you, not concerned about Jordan at all right now. He very much did keep getting beat up the middle. It's not been a great 3 weeks for Elton Jenkins so far. Let's hope Aaron plays before Brant. Yeah, I'm interested by Brant Banks. He had a really nice camp, but I don't think anyone's, calling for Brant Banks to get out there and start at any point yet. Let's take him slowly through this, and hopefully you don't need him through the course of the season. Yeah, I will say about Jordan Morgan, it was a really bad day, right? Like, we're not sugarcoating this in any way. There was some stuff on tape though that I'm like, oh, that looks good. Like it didn't look entirely just like he was lost out there. This was not a Jason Spriggs. This was not an Alex Light. This was not a, offensive line name who was just completely lost out there, right? He had moments. He had moments where he looked good, but it was a very bad day overall for Jordan Morgan. If I remember, Jordan Morgan was good in preseason at left tackle. He was very good. Should that be the only position he plays? That's tough. Are we sabotaging his career for Sheed, who may be gone next year? I don't think we're sabotaging his career. I think it's tough to just say, hey, let's let our first round pick only play one position when you already have a player at that position. I think you're trying to get him out there and get him opportunities to play. I just think they're going to have to figure out something of like, where is his best position? Is it, can we limit it to left tackle and left guard, or can we limit it to left guard and right guard? The other thing I'll say is it's one thing to do it in preseason. It's another thing entirely to do it in the regular season. You're going against lesser players. You're going against, not major stakes. You're not going up against, exotic schemes. You're certainly not going up against Myles Garrett. So it's a little bit different when you're in preseason than it is in regular season. I haven't seen that Jordan Morgan at any position yet from what I saw in preseason, but hopefully Morgan can just kind of put it together, play better, and Green Bay certainly can take a little bit off of his plate in the meantime as well. That last one was rough. Kudos to Cleveland. D played really, really well. Sadly, need to stop the stupid penalties. Yeah, definitely need to clean up the penalties. Kenny played with a foot injury from week 1 that needed surgery. Jaden should have had foot surgery instead of starting the season. I don't trust the medical staff anymore. The Kenny one's a little bit more unique, but Jair, Jordan, Christian Watson, now Zack Tom, there's certainly some decisions that have been made that have not been maybe the best ones. Also, the foot injury from Jaden was not what got re-injured, right? So he was clearly playing through that just fine, was not an issue for him. He looked fast as hell still and was managing the pain just fine. So I have tougher time putting that one on them. He injured the shoulder or the collarbone, not the foot injury. But these are tough decisions. And the other thing I'll just say too, at some point, everyone's got something. You kind of have to put guys out there, and playing hurt is part of the job description. And I've talked about this guy. You guys have heard me say this numerous times. One of the biggest gray areas in the entire NFL is the gray area between hurt and injured. If you don't have guys playing hurt, you're just completely screwed. You're completely and utterly screwed. The whole team is hurt. That's just the NFL season. The whole team is hurt. If you have guys that are I can't make it through this one, you're going to be in a world of pain. You're going to be on your 15th practice squad guy. You're going to have to put guys on IR because you can only call up so many. It becomes a real problem real fast. This is just part of the job description and part of the bizarro world we live in is you have to play hurt. You shouldn't play injured. You shouldn't have to play injured. But the gray area between hurt and injured is insane. And depending on the club, the player, all of it, it can get very, very murky, very, very fast. So it's a tough call a lot of times. And there's just a lot that goes into it. I know the Packers take it seriously. I know they listen to their medical staff. I know they listen to the player. And I'm willing to say hey, it's okay to get one wrong from time to time. Just feels like they've been on the wrong side of it a little bit more often than late. And I think it's fair to say, I'm not sure I completely trust it anymore. I think that's totally fair. The sky isn't falling, but it feels like the Lions have reclaimed the throne as favorites in the North. Packers blew a chance to maintain a hold on the first place lead in the division. Hope it doesn't bite them. So this is just one of those where everything in the moment feels like it's so important. The only thing that happens is what happened lately. Losing to Cleveland does not erase the fact that they completely crushed Detroit. It doesn't erase the fact that they completely crushed Washington. They took 2 teams at home and they completely had their way with them. So that doesn't change to me. It sucks that they lost to Cleveland. For Detroit, it sucks that they lost to Green Bay. But that still happened. And it matters just as much. In fact, it matters a whole hell of a lot more that Detroit lost to Green Bay than it did that Green Bay lost to Cleveland. So yeah, in this moment where Detroit has won their last 2 and Green Bay lost their last 1, it feels like Detroit's up and Green Bay's down. But they've played 3 games each. They're both 2-1, and Green Bay has the victory over Detroit. So this is the don't ride the roller coaster of getting too high when you beat Detroit or too low when you lose to Cleveland. There was great stuff that happened in the Detroit game, and there was bad stuff that happened in the Detroit game. There was great stuff that happened in the Cleveland game. There was terrible stuff that happened in the Cleveland game. There's stuff that needs to get cleaned up overall. And the big thing is that Green Bay just needs to keep getting better. There's nothing that has been defined yet on the season for either Detroit or Green Bay. And we all knew that this is still going to be a battle all throughout the year between the Lions and the Packers for the NFC North. And beyond that, it's a battle between San Francisco, LA, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Detroit, and Philly for the NFC. I'm not even putting Washington in that category, quite frankly. Maybe they get back in it, but I'm just not. I don't think they're quite in that group. I know they were in the NFC Championship a year ago. Those are the teams. It will be I'd be stunned if it wasn't. The Eagles, the Packers, the Lions, the Buccaneers, the 49ers, or the Rams. Those 6. Those are your 6 true contenders for the NFC, in my opinion. So some of those teams are 3-0. Some of them are peaking now. Others are going to peak later, but those are the 6. And it's going to take all season to figure out the pecking order for the playoffs. And then you better go out and probably win at least 2, depending on if you get the bye, or probably 3 if you don't, to get to the Super Bowl. You're going to have to face some very tough teams. This is all about growing throughout the course of the season and being the best that you can be at the end of the year. I don't think anything has changed in any sort of significant way. Even when the Packers were 1-0 and the Lions were 0-1, it's still, to me, this was still going to come down to Packers and Detroit in the division. And there's still 5 other really good teams in the NFC that Green Bay is going to have to compete with all season long. And there's going to be ebbs and flows through all 6 of those teams. No question about it. I don't think Love has a huge interception problem in terms of volume compared to others. I think the problem is that a lot of his interceptions just look so awful and are almost hard to believe a quarterback would make that throw. I think there's some of those. I don't think they've been as of late. The Anzalone one was the only one this season that I would say, what the was that? The Brian Branch one, which again was the penalty on it. It was an unbelievable play by Brian Branch. No issues with that throw really at all. And it's just a really incredible play by Brian Branch. The Anzalone one was just weird. I think he's trying to throw it away, or he's trying to no look and thinks that Kraft is kind of over there with nobody on him. I don't know what the hell that was. That to me was the one where I'm like, that can't happen. That's really weird and should never happen again. I don't put this one in that category either, based on what we talked about earlier. So, and going into the end of last season, he did a really good job of taking care of the football at the end of last year. So I think the gunslinger interception Jordan Love thing is out of proportion in totality. I don't think it's as pronounced as people like to think it is. You're all, myself included, coming off of watching for a decade plus the most risk-averse quarterback in the history of the world, who never threw interceptions. What Aaron did was not normal at all. Jordan threw 11 touchdowns in 11 interceptions in 2023. He threw 11 in 2024. He has 1 so far in 2025, which is on pace for like 6 or 7 interceptions. He is actually remarkably good in terms of not turning the ball over historically at a quarterback position. And even in modern NFL, through the course of his time as becoming a quarterback, his interception rate is remarkably low, all things considered. He had a 5.5% in 2023, a 5.9% in 2024. He's at a 6.4% so far in 2025, and a 5.6% interception rate for his career. Let's see if I can pull up some quarterbacks here. Lamar Jackson's interception rate last year when he won the MVP was 8.6%. It's 12% so far this year. It's 6.6 for his career. Again, Jordan's at 6.4 this year, 5.9, 5.5 the year before that, 5.6 for his career. Patrick Mahomes interception rate. Okay, he's been amazing. He also throws a lot of passes though, but he had 14 in 2023, 11 in 2024, but an interception percentage of 2.3, 1.9, and so far 1.0% for this year. So Mahomes is otherworldly when it comes to that. Let's see. Let's see. Who do I want to go to here? I'm just going to pull up one more. Let's go Josh Allen. Just because. Josh Allen. So Josh Allen, he's another one with a very good interception percentage. So he was at 3.1% in 2023, 1.2% in 2024. He doesn't have an interception so far. But this can't be right. I feel like I'm reading something wrong here. One second. Oh, sorry. Okay. I take this back. All right. I was looking at touchdown percentage for Jordan Love before. Hold up. Okay. So, and I think I was looking at it for Lamar Jackson too. This is why I should look up stats beforehand and not do this. All right, starting over. Jordan Love, interception percentage. I was looking at touchdown percentage. My apologies. Had a 1.9% in 2023, a 2.6% in 2024, and a 1.3% in 2025 for a 2.2% interception percentage in his career. So 2.2% of passes have been intercepted. So for Lamar Jackson, he's at 1.8% for his career. He was at 0.8 last year. Patrick Mahomes is at 1.8% for his career, was at 1.9% last year. And then Josh Allen was at 2.3% for his career, was at 1.2% last year. So he's very similar in those ranges for like interception percentages. It's, again, a very normal interception percentage rate, even when you're comparing him against the best of the best. So sorry for screwing up those stats there, but that's where the correct ones are at. All right. Sunnyverse. I live downtown Green Bay, and Brant Banks' apartment is right next to mine. Super nice kid. Hope he does well if he gets in. Nice little payday for him too. Yeah, absolutely. Cool for Brant Banks for sure. Do you think the O-line play takes longer to gel and gets amped up during the season due to off-season restrictions? I asked Mike Wall about that yesterday. He didn't really seem super enthusiastic about that overall. I still kind of believe it does gel throughout the course of the season. So hopefully that's what takes place here in Green Bay. Not trying to overreact this week. It's a bad loss, but assuming they show up against the Cowboys this week, we traded a loss against an NFC contender. I always thought we'd start 1-1 for a AFC team. Yeah, it's the best loss you can possibly have all season long is to the Browns. It's an AFC game. AFC North does not add any wins to the NFC. There's no tiebreakers involved. So if you had to lose one game all year, the Cleveland Browns game is probably the one that you picked. I mean, the Ravens, Bengals, and Steelers are also fine, right, in the scheme of things, but you would literally choose one of the AFC games to be the one that you would lose if you had to lose one. No, it's premature to say cut Morgan or fire the O-line coach, but do you think it's fair to think about firing Bisaccia? The special teams have seemed to stay relatively the same under him. I think it'd be a little bit aggressive right now to do that after just giving him a promotion. I did think going into this year, there should be a little bit more of a hot seat for Rich Bisaccia if the special teams doesn't improve. I was stunned. My biggest shock of the offseason was that they gave him an extension. It's one thing to bring him back. It's another to give him a raise and give him an extension, right? So that always seemed very off to me. I don't think you fire him at this point, but I do think it's fair to start questioning where this special teams is at and saying that it needs to be better. No question. Do you think anything of only 8 offensive snaps for Chris Brooks versus 15 for Emmanuel Wilson on a day they were struggling so much in pass pro seemed very odd to me? I don't, because they were using Wilson in, obviously some of the more, run-oriented plays, and they weren't using Wilson in like the 3rd and long situations and things like that, right? So they just didn't have, they were trying to stay out of those 3rd and long situations with Chris Brooks. It was noteworthy, I thought, that Wilson got a little bit more time in this game, but I didn't read anything into it. There wasn't a situation where Wilson like blew something from a blocking standpoint, at least not that I'm through on the tape so far, where I'm like, oh, that could have changed if Brooks was in there. So no, I didn't see it as anything like that. It didn't seem anything super crazy to me. When a group gets broken off as thoroughly as the offensive line did, I'm glad we have the captains that we do. Seems they'll keep the team from finger pointing. Need to flatline Dallas ASAP. Yeah. The captains will be fine. They'll get everything together. The offensive line will get things corrected. They have a much easier matchup this week. Just take things a day at a time. Don't overreact too much. Fix your fundamentals. Get back to where you need to be. I think this offensive line will be fine in the end, but it's been too leaky, too shaky so far, and they need to get it cleaned up. I was looking more at the pick Love through. Isn't almost identical to Savage playoff pick against Dak in 2023. I think I'd have to go back and look at it. I think Savage was actually playing a robber role from safety. I don't think he was in man coverage on the play, but I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't entirely remember that play. Let me see if I can just pull it up really quick. Different. So Savage is coming from safety and is playing a robber role from safety. So Savage rolls down into safety from safety and comes down and robs the play and never sees Savage whatsoever. Also, Green Bay not in No, I think they are in some form of man, but yeah, just a little bit different where Savage is playing a robber and they don't have anyone lined up on the inside. Oh, actually, no, it's Campbell who's lined up on the inside against the wide receiver, but they have him blitz. They have another safety come down. Okay, I see what you're saying. All right, so the read for Dak in that one pre-snap is probably off man coverage. Campbell looks like he's on the inside wide receiver. Then they've got two slot corner, outside corner manning up. Savage and this other safety are deep. I can't tell who that is. And then when Campbell comes off the edge on the blitz, Savage is supposed to cover Campbell's guy. I think it might be Brandon Cooks on that play. And then, yes, Savage does come off of his man coverage, reading Dak Prescott to pick off Des Bryant, or not Des Bryant. Is it Des Bryant? No, it's CeeDee Lamb. To take that to the house. So somewhat similar, but definitely a different look. And Green Bay threw a little bit more of a wrinkle at Dak than what, Cleveland threw at Jordan. Not in like a bad way, but like it was more of a play by Delpit kind of doing something seemingly a little bit more individually on his play. Darnell Savage now a key part of that Washington Commanders secondary. Yeah, he's at least a part of the secondary. Green Andy more frustrated with Jordan taking the sack than throwing that interception. Matt LaFleur took the blame because it would have been better served running on third down to run clock and then punting, or just, again, give Jordan a look where there's not going to be as cloudy of a picture there, right? Just give him a one-on-one on the outside. And if it's not there, throw it away. There's different things that you can do, but throwing into a congested area in that situation was never a good idea. Joe Burrow, who has universally recognized as a top 4 quarterback, had 118 yards against this defense. I think even Lamar struggled against it a little bit as well. One of the only good things about this game was Matthew Golden looked like he could be a reliable receiver. He's only going to get better, guys. That's, again, just a matter of when, not if. He's a really good wide receiver. He's getting open. He can make the explosive plays. Like, that's going to come with time. That dynamic between Love and Golden's only going to continue to get better. Saw some bad chips from both sides, almost like they go in the tackle's way rather than helping. Did you see this too? This is something that definitely happens. Why do you think run blocking has been so bad with our beefier guys on the line? Just technique, mentality. Jenkins hasn't been good. It just, the players up front have to be better. It's not a scheme thing or anything like that. Just has to be more fundamentally sound when it comes to blocking. And yes, with chips on the outside, that's why sometimes you have to be careful with those, because you'll see it either sometimes the running back gets in way of the tackle, or like the tackle will be ready to set and like take on the guy, and then he chips him, but he almost like pushes him inside, and the tackle's expecting to have him, and then all of a sudden he's like inside on him, and some weird stuff can happen that way. So you have to be careful and chip with a purpose if you're going to go and chip. Did the D-line play well in your second look? It seemed like they ran into each other a few times during that game. Haven't graded it yet that closely, so I'll definitely keep an eye on that one to get to the grades this week. I'm over halfway through the offense right now. Should finish offense tonight, start defense tonight, finish up the grades tomorrow. So Josh Myers intangibles really were the key to the offensive line. Nah, I don't know about that, but it's been shaky so far, to say the least. This offense is missing a speedy and elusive running back. Any news on Marshawn Lloyd and when he could return? He'll be eligible to return coming off the bye, but haven't heard anything yet on if he's going to be ready to return at that point. How about acquiring Malik Collins if the Browns aren't in the playoff hunt in a few weeks? He jumped off the screen watching the film. Would be awesome on our line next to Wyatt. Yeah, right now I'd be more interested in helping the offensive line than the defensive line, if I'm being honest. But as far as his contract goes, I don't think the Browns are going to be super excited to get rid of him anytime soon. His cap hit's gorgeous. Yeah. So for that reason, I don't think Cleveland's going to want to get rid of him, but yeah, if they want to, certainly would consider taking him. That's for sure. More under center play action, please. Statistics prove it works even when the run isn't. And why were we running so much 11, especially without Reed? Why not more 12 and 13? Yeah, they ran everything in this game. And again, I don't think there's any formation or anything that would have changed anything in this game. Like, I don't know how much more I can say. If you can't block up front, it doesn't matter if you're in 12, 13, 11, 50, 10, 0. It doesn't matter. Like, you're going to be behind the 8 ball in anything that you call. So, by the way, like, no 11, like, they wanted to get Golden those read looks and have him in the slot a little bit more. And you still have, obviously, Dobbs with his ability on the outside. There's a variety of different things that you can do. So, and also sometimes, by the way, if you're struggling, Mike Wall talked about this too. Actually, maybe it wasn't Mike. I don't remember. Somebody talked about it recently. Actually, I think it was Aaron Nagler. If you're struggling to run the football in some of your like heavier packages, right? Because you're just not winning up front. Sometimes you want to get more wide receivers and just more, like almost spread type of looks just to spread things out more and just give Jacobs a little bit more space to work with and see if he can make something happen. So again, to me, it didn't matter what formation was going to get called. So I know we like to throw like, hey, could we have moved a guard to center, a center to tackle? Could we have moved some of these guys around, or could we have done a different formation or a different play call? If you're getting your ass kicked up front, it's just there's not much that you can do to counteract that. You're not blocking anybody in the run game, and you're letting people through in the pass game, and everything is going to look terrible. And so I just, to me, that's the issue, is that they couldn't block enough up front. And if that's going to be the case, it's going to be a long day in the office offensively. The Aaron Banks situation is super frustrating. I'm also getting tired of brother Rashid committing loose focus penalties, illegal man downfield. The illegal man downfield is a little bit ticky-tacky. I'm willing to give a little bit more accident forgiveness. His false start penalty, I am not. Rashid did not have a great game in this game. Just need him to play better. Banks, I just think, needs to get healthy and needs to get more acclimated with this offense. I do think he's going to be okay in the long run, but the injury situation has certainly been really frustrating for him so far. Jenkins effort issues, contract related? I don't think so. Also sounds like, per Schneidman's article, it sounds like Tom didn't re-injure anything, but realized he couldn't go with the injury. Correct. That's been what's been not only reported, but Matt LaFleur talked about it in the press conference yesterday. Does not seem like there's been a re-injury, just he couldn't play through it like he thought he was going to be able to. This was in my scouting report. If you listened to the show when I said, when we went over, breaking down every play that, Micah played last year, he had, I think, I want to say like 5 or 6 like offsides or neutral zone infraction penalties last year. Maybe it was even a little bit more than that. And it showed up a lot on tape. Good news is that he forces about an equal amount of false start penalties, just lining up over people where they're trying to get out of their stance extra quick because they're going against Micah Parsons. So it does find a way to even itself out usually a little bit with Micah. And also, like, I don't necessarily like, the best of the best are trying to find a every little advantage that they can get. If Micah gets a great jump off the line, he's just going to beat you. He's hard enough to beat with no advantage. If he's got an advantage on you off the line, it's just going to be nuclear, right? So I don't, from time to time, hate that he's trying to get maybe a little bit of an advantage by jumping the snap there, but there's a time and a place. I respect the fact that he's trying to make a play at the end of the game to make sure that they don't get into field goal range. But if you're not careful, it ends up being a double negative and really haunting you because you're now giving them better field position to get in field goal range. So he knows it. He'll hopefully get it cleaned up, but that was something on the scouting report for sure. Think this loss was good for them in a way? We'll find out. We'll find out if they learn their lessons from it and improve from it. I feel for the defense. They dominated for 3.5 quarters, and the offense just gave the game away. I think they dominated for 4 quarters, quite honestly. Like, they gave up 3 points in that game. The 7 is due to Jordan in the pick. The 3 is due to the blocked field goal. Yes, they allowed them to get 15 yards or whatever, but I'm not holding that against the defense. To me, that is a dominant 4-quarter performance where they literally gave up 3 points in that game. That's as good as it gets in the NFL. Definitely brutal for them not to get a win based on how they played. If I'm Matt LaFleur on the 3rd down where Jordan threw the pick, I'm calling a shot play and telling Jordan take the sack if it's not open. If he completes it, game over. If he takes the sack, you punt. If it's picked 35 yards down the field, it's like a punt. Either way, I don't think the Browns can drive for a touchdown, but easy for me to say on a Tuesday. No, you're not wrong, John. That's why I say, like, again, not completely taking blame away from Jordan on that one. My biggest issue on that one is probably the play call. I don't want anything short over the middle. I don't want anything over the middle, period. That's where I said before, if like a one-on-one on the outside, if it's like Dobbs one-on-one on the outside against the corner and Dobbs wins his route and you feel good about it, all right, throw it. I trust Jordan to make that decision. I want a clear one-on-one. I don't want a bunch of muddled looks and things that could happen. I just want a one-on-one. If it's open, awesome. Throw it out there. And if it's not, then it's not. And we dirt it or throw it out of bounds or take the sack or whatever you need to do. Or to your point, if you want to take that shot kind of down the field, kind of like the Browns did on the arm punt before halftime, right? If they pick it off, if Delpit picks it off 35 yards down the field, 40 yards down the field, you're not super frustrated by it. It is what it is. So, I think anything besides what happened on that play clearly would have been better. Something more down the field, a run play, punting on 3rd down, anything would have been better than basically what happened on that play. Wasn't here earlier. What did you say about the Love INT? And I agree that his interception problem is blown out of proportion. I'm not going to repeat it again, Beast Bumblebee, but definitely go back and listen to it. Went on for probably a little bit too long on it, but definitely went into detail on it for sure. Sorry, Rich, you now owe the team 2 block kicks, 1 for Sunday, 1 when we really need it. All right. Sign me up. I'll take that bill. That if that's his way of making up for it, maybe coming up with a blocked kick when it matters most, I will gladly take that trade-off. What frustrated me was trying to run with Jacobs when Wilson was having better luck against the Browns. All right. So when those things happen, you have to wonder why. What was happening? Was it that Emmanuel Wilson was running better? Was it that Josh Jacobs was running worse? I've watched the plays, and I can tell you, Wilson just got better plays and better blocking on those particular plays. It may have been also an issue of maybe Cleveland was, a little less focused when, Jacobs was out of the game. Maybe they felt like they didn't need to, be as aggressive against the run game or something like that. But to me, when I watched it, it was not anything that Jacobs was doing wrong. It was just that Wilson on those plays by pure happenstance got a little bit better blocking and had a little bit better opportunity. You don't stop feeding Josh Jacobs the ball because Emmanuel Wilson got a couple looks. In fact, I thought there were a couple of runs that there was more out there for Emmanuel Wilson on the play that he didn't get from the play. It was just blocked up better. So it was not Emmanuel Wilson's running better than Josh Jacobs. It was just he got calls that actually ended up working a little bit better than the ones that Jacobs did. Jacobs didn't do anything wrong on his runs. Wilson didn't technically do anything right on his runs, just pure circumstance on that one. So if they would have called Emmanuel the same plays for Emmanuel Wilson that they gave to Jacobs and Jacobs the same plays that they gave to Wilson, Jacobs would have had a much better day and Wilson would have had a much worse day. Just happens that way sometimes. Genuinely never felt good about the game yesterday. I don't think we would lose, but I thought everyone thinking we would win by 10 plus was super optimistic. O-line was worse than I expected though. Yeah, again, it was one of those where I thought Cleveland would hang around and even, again, probably be tied going into the fourth quarter. I thought Green Bay would have a chance to kind of pull away at the end as they kind of learned the defense a little bit more and some of their strengths and weaknesses. But to your point, I did not see the offensive line playing that poorly either. And again, credit to Cleveland's defense. I feel like the biggest concern is having 3 guys on the O-line making almost $20 million a year plus 2 high draft picks, and you're not getting the return on investment that you need. Still a lot of time left, though. Go Pack Go. That last part is the key one. Let's see how they do the rest of this year. Not a ton to say about the game that hasn't been said, but you can believe Flacco completed that pass 17 yards down the field when Gary not only hit his arm, but can you believe, but gripped his bicep? Low-key game changer. Yeah, that was a crazy play. I was very surprised he was able. I mean, Flacco's got arm talent for days. That's the one thing he does have, and he certainly showed it off on that particular play. Like to see one of our bigger extra D linemen used occasionally as a fullback. R. Smith, I would take it a step further. I want a fullback on this team. I want a fullback on this team ahead of Josh Jacobs. I really do. I think he could open up some fun stuff. So I'm going to take it a step further. I don't need Colby Wooden or Nasir Stackhouse or one of those guys doing it. I want a pure fullback. Sign me up for a pure fullback. How do you see our O-line coming together now that Zach is injured? Well, it just depends. Is Banks able to go? Is Banks not able to go? My guess is if both are out this week, you're probably looking at Walker, Morgan, Jenkins, Ryan, and Belton this week in that order. That'd be my guess, with Kennard being the first guy off the bench. And then I bet Brant Banks jumps Donovan Jennings, and Brant Banks is the next guy off the bench after that. And then Donovan Jennings would be the guy after that. That'd be my guess, but hopefully we don't have to find out too deep, and maybe Banks or Tom will be able to go. We'll see. All I'm saying is the last time the Packers had that many penalties was week 3 of 2010 and a 3-point loss. Our quarterback threw 1 interception and 1 touchdown. In other words, we are still winning the Super Bowl. Love that beast. All right, friends. I think we got all of our questions in. Thank you so much for all of them. I appreciate you a ton. Thank you so much for being members. Thank you for the super chats as well. We'll be back Friday for happy hour. Lots of fun episodes coming up. I'll be back tomorrow morning with Paul Farrington. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon with Paul Brettel. For you guys that are members, that episode is already up for you guys. Thursday will be Justice Mosqueda. Thursday afternoon. All right, what am I missing? Oh, Thursday will be Justice. Thursday afternoon will be the grades. Friday morning will be Carmen. Friday afternoon will be happy hour. Saturday TBD. Sunday pregame show, and then preview episode, as well as live post game following the game as well. Lots coming up this week. Hopefully a much better week 4 than it was a week 3. I'll see you guys all very, very soon. But until next time, and as always, oh, do we get one more come in? Why aren't we doing more stretch toss plays like we did when we had Aaron Jones? It's not what Josh Jacobs is good for. I bet we see more of it when Marshawn Lloyd comes back with him in the game, but that's not the type of running back that really Josh Jacobs is. That was a play that was more intuitive for Aaron Jones. Josh Jacobs kind of has his own brand of running game that he likes and not necessarily quite as much of that stuff. All right, guys, see you soon. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.